Within a generation, the number of slaves in the South has climbed to over 3 million, and they are running away in ever-increasing numbers.
A minimum number of slaves per year that ran away was 50,000. Just a continuous movement away from the plantation. It was almost a routine.
Visitors to the South report that virtually every plantation owner has problems with escaping slaves. On the Moorville plantation in Louisiana, in 1 month in 1855, 10% of the slaves had run away. So many slaves run away that printers began to sell fill-in-the-blank wanted posters with the familiar runaway symbol. The stakes are getting higher.
Runaways pose two kinds of threats to a slave owner. There's a psychic cost and there's a financial cost. The psychic cost is to the slave owner's myth, the slave owner's belief that all slaves are happy and contented. But the financial cost is also very real. A slave who runs away in 1800, who's an adult male field hand, could be sold for $500. In 1860, it's $1,500.
Always, slave owners are searching for ways to stop the financial loss of runaways. They threatened to sell runaways to the sugar plantations, where life was even more brutal.
The prospect of being sold down the river, it was the prospect of being sold into a place where your life would not be long and being sold away from family. That was one of the things that slaves feared a great deal.
Despite the threats, slaves continue to escape.
The most likely slaves to run away are young, unmarried men. The reason for that has to do, age means mobility, greater physical ability to flee. Being single means one would not be leaving family obligations behind, perhaps a wife, perhaps children. It's a common assumption that slaves always ran north to achieve their freedom as runaways. But the reality is that slaves would run in whatever direction would best serve their purposes to get that freedom.
By the 1840s, while most runaways are still hiding in the South, more and more are setting their sights on freedom in the North, aided at times by the Underground Railroad.
The constant anxiety as you moved across the countryside about being recognized, about being stopped, about being interrogated, and you might not be able to answer. The exhaustion of the movement. If you were on across country, you had to go usually at night. You didn't know. It was all unknown.
The spices work, impeding the dog's sense of smell and sending them in the wrong direction. But in this deadly game of wits, the slave catcher usually has the upper hand.
They'll place ads in newspapers, or they'll put up ads trying to advertise a runaway so that the broader community can take part in the chase.
Almost every tavern, courthouse, and post office in the South is flooded with runaway posters, hoping to lure the general public into the hunt for runaways.
Among the 50,000 slaves a year that ran away, probably not more than 1 or 2,000 made it to freedom in the North.